What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And today we got a very familiar face on the channel, Corey Sanchez himself from On the Warpath. Thank you so much, bro, for joining the stream. And we have a lot to talk about, a lot about our Washington football team. But I do want to first start by talking about the biggest news in sports today. And that is the James Harden trade, right? James Harden is now a Brooklyn Net after spending several years in Houston. And I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the move? Do you think the Nets got so much better, as a lot of people are saying on social media right now, because of it? Or do you think it's an accident waiting to happen, as Stephen A. Smith would say?
Well, we were kind of talking about it before we even got on it, like right before we got on here.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's very player driven, but it's like, if you're not happy, you can just go, you can just be that disgruntled and go somewhere. And I think that, you sign a contract with somebody, you need to uphold it. And then if it's mutually beneficial, which it looks like they if he's not there and he's going to go to Brooklyn and all that stuff, which Brooklyn, they seem like they've got a little bit of their own issues. They got an inexperienced head coach and Steve Nash, but he does get reunited with KD, and they got Kyrie. And what's Harden's role going to be on that team? He goes from being the alpha to maybe the beta or the gamma. So, and now the interesting thing about the Rockets is now John Wall is the man down there. So last year's highest paid cheerleader in Washington is now the man in Lone Star State. So that's pretty funny.
Off that major injury.
Yeah. It's wild, bro. It's wild. But and also in the beginning, thank you for having me on here. I appreciate it. Always a blast to be on here with you and chat it up, talking about DC sports, bro. I love it.
Yeah. Again, like super fun. I will say though, on the move, I mean, you touched on this before the stream, and I'm sort of in the same boat. It's gonna be interesting to see how all those pieces in Brooklyn play this season. And a lot of people, I don't know why, because it was like the storyline yesterday, but a lot of people are forgetting that Kyrie Irving, wasn't there like retirement talks about him and like not
that's
wanting
right
to play anymore? I think a lot of people are forgetting that today with James Harden news. And I mean, will we ever see the official big three, the Kyrie, the James Harden, the KD? That's still, the jury's still out on that one. But if all three do end up playing for the Brooklyn Nets, I don't really like the fit. I don't like Kyrie Irving as a ball dominant point guard, right? A point guard that doesn't really like passing the ball, which is kind of crazy for him, at the position. But a point guard doesn't like passing the ball, and then you got James
like
Harden.
Steph Curry, pretty much.
I would say Steph Curry likes to pass it a little bit more.
Yeah, Steph will pass it, but he's got the ability to score.
And he also likes taking a step back, right? Like he can do that. He's shown, the ability to do that. Kyrie, though, even in Cleveland, I mean, he always wanted to be the man, right? That's a big reason why he ended up leaving the city and leaving the team. So it should be interesting to see how things play out. I do like Houston, though. I think the fact that Houston has actually gotten a lot more draft picks and already had a lot of young talent, and now is adding Victor Oladipo, the PG County native, into the mix. I think Houston could actually be a team like the Thunder who could be set for a very bright future. John Wall is on the cap for $40+ million, and he's getting up there in age, but you only have to deal with that for a couple more years, and you got all those draft picks, probably high-end draft picks, and I mean, you're building a team, right?
Yeah. Building something special, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Brooklyn, meanwhile, where are the picks? Like, they're literally just win now mode, and if they don't win, then they don't win. Yeah. I do want to shout out all the people in the chat. Big Simple, Steelers Nation, Yuki, the Taylor Heineke. Wow, coming off the big performance on Saturday. I see him in the chat. Appreciate the support from the big star in the DMV. Patrick West, Roger Smith, B Nizzle. Appreciate all the support as always, guys. And I do want to actually get into Watch the Football News, right? The reason that we're all here. And first and foremost, speaking of Heineke, I just wanted to get your final thoughts on Heineke's performance on Saturday night. And do you think he's shown you enough to legit vie for a starting quarterback spot in DC come September?
So I thought he played great. I thought he played the best game he could have played. And his mobility was there. He didn't have, there were some opportunities that he had that it wasn't the fact that he didn't take advantage of it. It was, and I hate doing this, but it was a lot to do with the officiating crew. I mean, you had a couple of pass interference calls that might have been missed, holding, yada yada yada. But yeah, but it's all it's apples and oranges right now. But I thought he played very well. I thought he was mobile as heck. He was out there fearless, and I think yes, he has put himself in a position to vie for the starting quarterback job. And the key word, and I think the key word you said in that question was vie for it, not earn it. He has vied for it. And there was some concern with that shoulder and that AC joint. Now, is that something that's just, okay, that's something we don't have to worry about? Or, and I think when he last started in Carolina, I think he had an injury too. So, that's where I want durability. I right now I think he's the flavor of the month, which he has earned that. He has earned that, and I'm not taking anything away from him. Did a great job. He did one hell of a job, and I can't take that away from him, and I won't. And I wasn't very bullish on having him start. I thought you had to start Alex, and he made me look like a crazy man. But that's all good.
No, yeah. I mean, you weren't the only one. A lot of people, both of my guys that were on the last stream also were in the same boat, wanted Alex Smith to start.
I wanted Mitchell Trubisky to start.
Oh, you just opened up a can of worms right there.
I told you I watch Shone all the time, man. I watch it all the time.
Yeah. We'll back off of Libisky for now. But in terms of Taylor Heineke going into the week, really the last 2 weeks, I haven't been like a full vocal supporter of him getting the start or anything. But for example, when the news came out that Ron Rivera was considering maybe rotating quarterbacks, if Alex Smith wasn't healthy or anything, I was fully for that. I even called into 106.7 The Fan, gave my opinion, and was really all for that idea. But Taylor Heineke, I don't think any of us expected the performance that he gave on Saturday night. It was amazing. For him, I guess, luckily for him, actually, it came in the last game of the season. So everybody could talk about it for many more months to come and will generate a lot of offseason buzz for him. He's probably going to get paid more than he has ever gotten paid in his short NFL career to date. I will say, though, I think I agree with you. He should have the opportunity to at least vie for the starting quarterback spot. I do think we need to go after another quarterback, either in free agency or in the draft. But I think, potentially he wouldn't really ask for too much money. I think he could sign him for relatively cheap. And it'll be interesting, though, if we go after someone like Cam Newton and have the same sort of quarterback room like the Panthers. I know I'm not a big Cam Newton fan either, but I'll just say it would be interesting because we pretty much had the same quarterback room that the Panthers had a couple years back. But I would still much rather go after a guy, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but a guy like a Matthew Stafford in free agency, and maybe a little bit less so draft the young guy in the draft because you already have a great defense. You sort of want to win now with all those rookie contracts, right? You want to win with Chase Young, not being too expensive at this point. You want to win with Terry McLaurin, not asking for $20 million yet per year. So, yeah, but I agree with you. I think you should definitely have a chance to vie for the starting spot. And I see the Taylor love in the chat. I mean, Michael Robinson, Taylor's the GOAT. Don't know about that, but again, he had a great performance on Saturday night. He definitely earned himself an opportunity in the NFL. I see Taylor Heineke once again. Yuki throwing out the suggestion to go after Jameis Winston. How do you feel about that? As like a relatively cheap guy to go after.
I'm not against it, but and we'll kind of get into it a little bit late when you touch on Matt Stafford. There's a certain protocol that my quarterback needs for this team. That I have a criteria that they need to fill out before I say yes on them.
Let me guess, it's not turning over the ball.
Yeah, that would be one of them. That would definitely be one of them. Okay. You know, don't and outscore your opponents.
Yeah. Who can forget, right? You're predicting the team that's going to outscore the other team, right? That's all that matters in the NFL.
I tell you, man, I say 100% of the time, if you get that right, if you outscore your opponent, you're gonna win the game.
Yeah, and you haven't missed, man. You're batting 1,000 on that. Yeah. But Jameis Winston, I'm in the same boat as you. He's too turnover prone. Cam Newton is in the same boat. I know Newton offers more like of that rushing ability, but he's getting up there in age and he's injury prone as well. So I don't really like those two options. I see Yuki, even mentioned Jacoby Brissett. I mean, you know what? Let's talk about the quarterbacks now. Who do you want in Washington as the starting quarterback come week 1? And also, would you much rather have someone in free agency, pick up a guy in free agency, or go after someone in the draft?
Yes. So my dream situation, and Roger Smith and I, we had this debate the other day. I think that my dream situation would be Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
that would be my dream. That is my dream. That is what I want. That is my Powerball number if I can get it. Granted, I have a price on what I'm willing to pay. I don't think you need to sell the farm, but if you still got the crackheads who traded Nuke out there to Arizona, somebody still got to be in there from Bill O'Brien, because somebody had to tell Bill O'Brien, this is okay. You can do this. I'm hoping that person is still in there. I hope he talked to Tim, the crackhead down there at the gas station. He gives a fish sandwich to every payday down there in Houston. That's who I hope I hope Tim is still on the corner. And somebody say, you need to trade Watson for a 3rd round pick up there. Somebody. I'll be like, okay, brother. But you dig into the quarterbacks. Matt Stafford probably. There's a report came out today that he does not want to rebuild. And that
lines are also picking high.
Yeah. So. And Kevin Colbert might be the GM of so coming from Pittsburgh. So this guy knows how to draft and probably run a room and everything. Matt Ryan is out there, but his contract, how much of that would you have to burden on that contract if you brought somebody in there and he's 30, 60, 37 or something like that? Phillip Rivers is going to be 40. So you don't really want to go after him if he does hit free agency market. I don't think that there's a reason why Jameis Winston did not start over Taysom Hill.
Yeah. Like
there was a reason why Teddy Bridgewater started over Taysom Hill last year. There's a reason why. I don't know what their reason is, but I trust Sean Payton in those though in that situation. Prescott, if he gets off the Dallas field, I would entertain him with dinner and talk about a contract. So I want somebody who's been to the playoffs, who's won a couple games. You don't necessarily have to win the big game. Guy who can galvanize a locker room. I think that's key.
Yeah.
And that's what people fail to realize about free agency and stuff is they won it last year. Who are the biggest names everybody won? Amari Cooper and Austin Hooper.
And what did they do this year?
Exactly. And Logan Thomas outperformed Austin Hooper this year. Go look at it. Who's getting paid more?
Yeah.
Hello. So you've got to find. I think that's key. You've got to find that guy who can galvanize a room and that can lead this team, show this young team how to win. This is their first time winning. I think this can be winning the division could be the best and worst thing for us because we won as a people calling me at the wrong time. Anyway, but oh god, I called them back. Sorry, I had to silence my phone now. But anyway, yeah. But there's a certain criteria that these cats have to follow. And I need somebody that's gonna galvanize the room, get these guys, show them to the way to win. And like I said, this could be the best or worst thing for this team going forward, is because you've gotten a taste of it. You show me what you can do. Now I need you to build on this.
Yeah.
And what I always say, if you're a bad team, you should be able to double up on your win total from a year ago and then back into 3 or 4 games, at least 1 to 3 games. They did the 1 game, right? So I said double up, then that. So this year they don't really have to double up. Now 7 is your base. 7 is your floor next year. You've got to win. You've got to back in and win 3 games for me. At least get 10. You've got to go 10-6. So I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know. But like I said, Taylor is really the healthiest quarterback Washington has going into 2021 right now.
Crazy.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because I know we all saw what Taylor Heineke did on Saturday night, and a lot of us are thinking that he should automatically be the number 1 guy coming into training camp, coming to the preseason and all that. But I think the perfect fit, I mean, I mentioned his name before, but I think the perfect fit would actually be Matthew Stafford for many reasons. One, what? You didn't even let me get into my reasoning first.
No. I'm just like that. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. You're right. I didn't listen to you.
Maybe not perfect, but I think personally I would rather have him over like the other options that have been thrown around. One, I think he is, if you're not looking at a guy like Deshaun Watson, not looking at a guy like Dak Prescott, he is probably the most talented quarterback out there that is potentially could be on the move this offseason. 2, you wouldn't have to pay $40+ million for him. I know he isn't cheap. I get that. I really do. But when we're talking about the Dak Prescotts of the world, the Deshaun Watsons of the world, like they're making $45+ million, and that's gonna really, really do a mess on your salary cap situation for years to come. And I know they're very great talents, but if we're not looking at a dream pick like Deshaun Watson, I just think Matthew Stafford, 1, has the talent to be a very good starting quarterback here. 2, is likely to be on the move this offseason. 3, is not going to, cost you $40+ million, which could really, again, not do really good things for your salary cap situation. And then also, he's not very, like he isn't
good.
Super. No. He isn't really old. He isn't super young. And, we're trying to go after a veteran quarterback that still has a lot more years left. And I think Matthew Stafford is sort of that guy. I asked you this initially, but I'd rather go after a guy in free agency than a guy in the draft because, like I mentioned before, you have a good defense. You have weapons, right? Maybe add some weapons in the offseason, but you have a lot of young talent on the team that you want to win now, win while they're on the rookie contracts. That's what good teams always do. They win when their guys are on rookie contracts. They add pieces when their guys are on rookie contracts, especially the quarterbacks, as we've seen with the Bills, as we've seen with other quarterbacks in the past. And I think if we add a couple more weapons, maybe add a guy like Matthew Stafford, maybe you're going to have to give up, some high-end draft picks, maybe a second-round pick for 2 consecutive years, and maybe another, Tim Settle or someone like that. I get that, but you're going to have to pay a price in order to get a very good guy back here in D.C. and that can win us games. Go ahead, because I know you did not like the pick.
Yeah. I don't. I'm not a big fan of this. So we're talking about going after a guy who has a starting career record of 74-90.
His teams
and one tie. Yeah, I got you. But in these seasons that he's played, he's thrown for 4,000 or more 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Mm-hmm.
And he's thrown for like 20-some touchdowns most of his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
My thing is with this dude is, and he's 0-2 in the playoffs. He's never won his division, and we could say, I think everybody's won that division since he's been at least twice. I think everybody's won that division at least twice since he's been in the pros. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. I have to double check that. So we're talking about Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chicago's won the NFC North twice.
That's what an elite defense does for you.
Yeah.
We have an elite defense here.
Yeah, Minnesota
never had that.
Right. Minnesota. I mean, great day, Nati. It's a I mean, they had one of the best offense. They had one of the best wide receivers to play the game. And you mean to tell me you couldn't outscore somebody? And they had decent backs. Now, the leadership has been suspect. I'll give you that. Like Jim Schwartz. And we thought Jim Caldwell had finally got it together for him because they were like 9-7 2 years in a row. But Bob Quinn was wanting to bring his guy in there. So that didn't really work out. But Matt Stafford, I'm like Randy Jackson. It's a no for me, dog. Like I can't more. I'm trying to teach these young fellas how to win. Nothing on here says Matt Stafford knows how to win. It's the same way I feel about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Nothing says that this guy knows how to win in the NFL. To me, he knows how to win contracts, but he doesn't know how to win ball games. And I mean, I know that's unpopular. And that people might look at me like Corey, what you sound crazy when you're saying that. But I'm like, I don't want this guy. I don't want a household name if it's not going to do anything for me. It's like, I've been researching mics, right? Zoom makes a mic. Shure makes a mic, right? Shure is a little bit expensive, but people know Zoom as well, right? Zoom has stuff coming in the boxes broken according to their reviews all the time. Why would I want a broken thing and I can spend a little bit more money and get something that's historically reliable, right? And then on a whim.
Stafford, when it comes to production, has been reliable. I mean, he has been injury prone a little bit, but okay, Corey. So this is my whole thing with Matthew Stafford. I think from top down, you hit the nail on its head when it comes to this specific point. Top down, their leadership has just been awful for so many years. Matthew Stafford has been able to produce despite that. Also, the Lions have had very, very, very bad defenses throughout most of his career, if not all of it. I know they've had weapons on offense like Megatron for a while, and then they had Kenny Galladay, who's also very much injury prone, didn't really play too many games this past season, even with Stafford balling out this year. But I just think for the first time in probably his entire career, if he comes to Washington, he's going to have an elite, super legit defense, right? With Chase Young, Montez Sweat, we're probably going to add some pieces on the back end, but our secondary isn't too shabby. Add some pieces of linebacker. We're going to talk about that a little bit later with your you keep wanting to jab me with the whole John Bostic thing, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think with all those players on defense, all that young talent, you got Terry McLaurin on offense, you got Antonio Gibson hopefully going to be coming back much more healthy, much more elusive, much more. I mean, he even mentioned he's going to lose some weight in the offseason. Hopefully that, does some things for him, right? Does more things than it does for a quarterback like Dwayne Haskins, who didn't really need to lose weight in order to actually produce on the field. That's a story for another day. You're going to add another receiver probably in free agency, if not the draft. Maybe add another tight end. Logan Thomas is your tight end one at this point, but I just think
his respect. Don't brush over that. Don't brush over that like that. Show Logan some respect, boy. Show him some respect, brother.
I know. For people who don't know, in the beginning of the season, I kept saying that I want to see more before crowning Logan Thomas as the tight end one for the Washington football team. And I believe it was in early December. I think it was after the Steelers game when I officially said that he can be the tight end one for us. I do want to add some more talent at the position, though. Want to add some more receivers.
We only had one tight end this year, though, Nati, if you think about it.
Yeah, maybe that's a big reason why Thomas kept getting all those, targets and had a bunch of yards. Like, I know Thomas is legit talented, but it would always be great to add to the position. And back to the Stafford point, though, I just think with a legit defense, with some players on offense, right, as he's had throughout his career, I think he can actually win games here in DC. Would you like to refute that claim? Would you like, because you didn't mention defense.
Okay, here we go. I'll do this. The man's 5-0 against Washington all time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so he has good luck in Washington. He's the first starting quarterback in the history of the Detroit Lions to ever win in Washington. We're going 8-0. If we get him, we're going 8-0 at home next year.
I mean, maybe. And also, like, we usually play, I believe we played the Lions like every year for the last 2 or 3 years, right?
Last 2 years we played.
So, I mean, if we do end up playing them, next couple of years, that's automatic W, right? With Matthew Stafford at the quarterback position.
I see where your head's at.
With that being said, I do want to shout out some more people in the chat. Protect, Tony, appreciate it. With the love and
Tony
and Big Simple once again, Roger Smith. So Roger Smith actually brought up an interesting name that we could potentially add as a tight end 2 on our team. Do you think Njoku might be a good add maybe in the offseason, to shore up the position, or do you think we should go after someone who's not as injury prone and might actually be more able to get targets in the Washington offense?
So I'll answer your question with another question.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the primary function of a tight end in the NFL?
It's the block
and two. Yeah, pretty much catch, right?
Uh-huh.
What has been Njoku's biggest problem over the last couple of
injuries?
Years?
I would say injuries over drops.
Right.
Drops.
His hand. He's had a hand injury a couple of times.
Yeah.
If we can get him at a bargain, sure, why not? Why not get him? But my biggest concern has been about his injuries. But I don't see why not. But heck, the way Austin Hooper played last year, do they really want to let him go? That's nothing.
They also have Harrison Bryant, right? The young guy that they drafted.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, and Njoku's he's not old. What is he, like 26 or 25?
Yeah.
Well, he's not even 20, he'll be 25 at the beginning of next season.
There you go. He should be entering prime.
Sure, I'll take. You know what? For the sake of argument, I'll take his 29 catches and 2 touchdowns and 213 yards in 13 games. Yep, I'll take it.
Okay. And I mean, we've taken flyers on guys in the past.
That's right. Yeah.
In the last couple of years, and it's worked out. So
yeah.
Maybe. I do want to get into the other. So outside of Heineke and his GOAT status in the DMV, apparently, I do want to get to the other news that is surrounding our Washington football team the last week, and that is the general manager search. And I was wondering what are your thoughts on the team search so far with all the guys that they've interviewed or reportedly interviewed, and are there any candidates that you would like most here in DC?
The guy in Tennessee seems like he would be. I don't really think Mark. I don't want somebody. I don't want anybody older. Like I don't want Marty Hurney. Not a Martin Mayhew fan. We saw what he did in Detroit. I mean, he had some mixed results. Rick Smith is a guy that kind of jumps out to me. Also,
Texans, though.
Yeah. Is he still with the Texans?
I think
he was last with them.
He was fired though, right? I mean, obviously he's fired. Like, when was he fired? Yeah,
he's been out of the game for a while, so it's been like 3 years. But I mean, he helped them. He was there with the Broncos as a coach and moved into their front office and stuff. And then he helped really build the Texans into what we've seen over since 2006. So after they really got out of the shadow of Dom Capers, they started doing pretty well and they became reputable. I would go after Rick Smith, or if you want to give Calton a try, go ahead. I think the only thing there is, it ain't gonna be Kyle Smith. I don't think it was ever going to be Kyle Smith. We could have sat here. I just never, and that's why I never really said anything about it. Kind of like, I just don't think it's going to be him, which is interesting because Kyle Smith's dad was actually in with the Chargers when Ron was out there, when Norv was the head coach. So I find it kind of interesting that they didn't want to give him a another look-see.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But you know, the guy's going to answer to Ron either which way, and that's the other thing. It's going to be like this inverse type thing. This guy's going to take care of like maybe day-to-day football operation and be like, "Hey, Ron, do you think this is good?" Okay, yes, sir, I'm going to do it. So you know.
Also, you probably saw this on social media, but I think like a big reason why Ron Rivera is not sold on like Kyle Smith as the next GM is maybe, you know, he deserves like a lot more credit for all the acquisitions that we had in the offseason, like the flyers that we took on guys like J.D. McKissick. Maybe not just him, but like the coaching staff, right? Scott Turner looked at J.D. McKissick, liked what he saw. Ultimately, they signed him. Same thing with Logan Thomas. I believe it was the tight ends coach who really liked him and his ability, even though a lot of people didn't, right? A lot of fans weren't really high on him. So I think maybe the coaching staff had more to do with all the acquisitions in the offseason. Although you can also look at the drafts the last couple of years, and Kyle Smith has done a really good job of drafting guys. So, I mean, it's a little confusing as to why he's not getting more attention as the potential next GM for us. But I would say I'm actually more high on Martin Mayhew than you are. I think he's actually done a pretty good job. You know, I know the Lions situation, that was a mess, but I mean, the Lions have been a mess for decades now, and I don't think Mayhew was the biggest reason why. I think, you know, he is the vice president of player personnel, I believe, for the San Francisco 49ers now. And if you just look at, you know, his work with the 49ers, he's picked up guys in the draft like Mike McGlinchey, Fred Warner, I believe, was a 5th-round pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. Brandon Ayuk. He also took flyers, not really flyers, but signed guys that actually had a high amount of risk, and like a lot of teams didn't want them at that point because of whether it be injuries or age, and guys like Richard Sherman and Jason Verrett. And those acquisitions, especially the Sherman one, had paid off immensely, right? Sherman was a big part of why they went to the Super Bowl on top of guys like Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, all those guys on the defensive line. And then if you look back at his Lions like tenure, he also drafted guys like if you take out, you know, the high-end top 10 picks or anything, he drafted guys like Darius Slay, I believe, who wasn't a top 10 pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, I mean, he picked up some nice guys. And I think he's not my top choice, but he's definitely someone who I think they might consider. And I also heard that he actually played – I think it was him, right, who played –
Yeah, he played for us. He won he won a Super Bowl with us.
Yeah.
He's part
in the
of
secondary, right?
Yeah. You know, and you kind of think about that, like with Sam, like he's helped build the 49ers, right, over the last couple of years. And the one thing about the 49ers, I think that's the most interesting thing is they've got all this talent, right? And he's got that eye for talent. They just haven't, they put it together kind of in last year. But other than that, they've been flanked by double-digit losing seasons in those 3 years. Like that's my thing. And that could be on Kyle Shanahan more than anything. But I mean, you know, the Detroit thing worries me. That's the only concern I really had. But I mean, he was general manager, drafted Matt Stafford. And granted, if anybody's ever driven a Ford vehicle, you know they got problems anyway. It's no reason why the Lions are in trouble. So it's the reason why they say found on road dead. But, you know, the football team is found on road dead as well, too. That's how you spell Ford. So I don't know. You know, I would go out and I mean, I talk to him. I'll talk to him. I'll kind of backtrack on that. Him, Rick Smith, and old boy from Tennessee. I like those guys. I like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I got one more guy for you that I don't think is getting enough buzz. But before that, Gregory asked if he took George Kittle in the draft. I believe he did. I believe he actually.
When did Kittle get drafted? 16.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was John Lynch and him. Let me see. Is he 16 or 17?
2017.
17. So yeah, he was in the room with John Lynch when they drafted him. Yeah. So he's got, I mean, sure, why not?
Yeah. But the guy that I did actually want to mention was Joe Shone, the assistant general manager for the Bills. But he also spent time with the Dolphins before and hit on a lot of guys that are like balling out right now for their respective teams. He hit on guys like Xavier Howard, who I believe should be the defensive player of the year this year, had 10 picks. When do we ever see 10 picks from a defensive back? It's been a while. Also got a guy like Laramie Tunsil, right, with all those draft questions at the time. I know everybody remembers the whole smoking weed, right, and like that video that was put out and stuff. But I mean, he took the risk and drafted him, and he did a very good job in Miami before they ultimately traded him to Houston. But also you have to look at what he has done with the Bills. He's drafted a stud in Josh Allen, who's a legit MVP candidate right now, who had legit questions coming into the draft, right? Everybody knew about him because of his arm strength and, you know, his mobility, but a lot of people question his accuracy, and he's definitely picked it up every single year he's been in the league. He also drafted a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, who's from the DMV, I believe played for Virginia Tech, right? And also guys like Cody Ford, Star Latulele. So he's done a pretty good job of, you know, being in the draft room at least, if not outright making the picks. And I think he definitely should be a legit contender for the GM spot, if not for guys like Mayhew or like Kyle Smith.
Yeah, and my thing is not just when we want a general manager, right? We don't want just a guy that can hit in the draft room. We want a guy that can hit on finding people in free agency, somebody that might need to come in and plug up too. I think that's another key function that folks are forgetting. I'm not saying you're forgetting that, but I think that's something key that we had. And then you got to think about this also. What general manager wants to answer to the head coach all the time? That's me playing devil's advocate. These guys might be totally cool, understand that I'm going to collaborate with Ron Rivera, or and Ron has the final say, and I get that. But I mean, it's an interesting dynamic. And you know, Scott McLuhan, he hit on some picks. Like we still got Ionitis from there. And you know, but he was still a guys. Yeah. So I mean that's where I kind of but also he hit in free agency too. He brought in like somebody like a Ricky James Francois that played pretty well. He filled a role. They got Pot Roast Knighton, who's able to plug up the middle. So they were able to do things like that. So that I mean, come on now. Like the secondary was garbage.
Yeah. And
he did work out that deal with Deshaun Golston, where Tampa was paying him to play with us. Mm-hmm. So I mean, stuff like that. Now, not everybody's perfect, but those are things that come to mind when I think about it. And he was the last general manager before Ron came here to win a division.
That is true. That is true.
Now. No. You know, I mean,
Jay Gruden too as coach, right? You know, the liability that he was.
And blind I mean, broke clock is right twice a day, though, right? And you know.
But you know, I put up the comment here. Yeah, it is sad that we picked Sprinkle over Kittle, but a lot of teams picked him. Even his own team picked, you know, other guys over Kittle, because I think Kittle was a 5th round pick, if I'm not wrong, which is actually absurd because he's arguably the best tight end, probably 2nd, right, behind The guy in Kansas City right now, Travis
Oh
Kelce.
yeah,
So.
old Travis Kelce. Yeah, but those two, they are 1A and 1B. And I mean, you saw what Nick Mullins did earlier this season. He could throw to anybody. And Greg Kittle was like, I thought he had a chance to break old Brandon Marshall's catching a game record.
Yeah. He's a baller, and he's a very good blocker too, which is hard to find. But I do want to ask you about the needs on our Washington football team, right? Because we're shifting our attention to the offseason off of that the season that we've had, pretty successful. We got into the playoffs, and things are looking bright for us. But I was wondering, what do you believe are the biggest roster needs on this team right now? And what do you think we should do in the draft and even in free agency? I know this is like a very convoluted question, but like I was wondering, what are your thoughts on everything that I asked?
Quarterback, number one. That is the chip that is top of the list is a quarterback. I think that goes without saying it. I think on offense, you also need to add weapons. He's right. Tony's right on that one. He did hit on James. See, give that man his credit. He hit on Sheriff. He hit on
the fifth overall pick. It's hard. I mean,
he drafted him as a right tackle, and they moved him to guard. They had to move him to guard. They drafted him.
That was the coaches.
But still, he drafted an All-Pro. Give that man his flowers.
All-Pro that is better than Morgan Moses, correct?
Why you gotta do stuff like that?
It's facts. You're not telling.
You ain't had to do that. You ain't had to do that.
You want to say that debate for later, or do you want to start now?
Hey, this is your channel, brother. I ain't gonna look. You right now. I ain't gonna mess with you. But I think wide receiver is key. Adding another tight end would be good. Solidifying the offensive line with maybe a left tackle, and possibly you might need a right guard if you don't want to break the bank on Mr. Sheriff. I think when you flip on the defensive side of the ball, I think at the back two levels you need something, because our back seven was suspect at best at times. I think you need a linebacker who's going to be good in coverage. I think you need a complete linebacker, guy who can tackle. I want a middle linebacker. Ron and Jack's defense deserves a quarterback of that defense. Need that. I think you're going to need a safety. I think you're going to need a free safety. And then that'll lead to the question, what you're going to do with Landon Collins. Get an outside cornerback, because Kendall Fuller, keep him inside. He's the bubble boy. Keep him inside. He can't go outside. He cannot. He's allergic.
I want to ask you a question on that.
Go ahead, man.
Why is it for Kendall Fuller specifically? Why is he done worse on the outside than the slot cornerback position, when I would assume the slot cornerback position is much harder to play because you don't have a sideline as there to sort of protect you from bad plays or anything as a cornerback, and I guess as that other defensive mechanism, right, that's there to help you and containing the wide receiver. I always wonder throughout the course of the year why Kendall Fuller. I think he played much better in 2017, I believe, when he was here. I think this was last year here playing in the slot than he did this year on the outside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Most definitely. I guess you got the boundaries, and you're responsible for in between the hashes and stuff, right? Yeah. So that might be what he's good at. And if you don't think he should be the slot corner, move him to free safety and then pick up two corners there. But somebody's going. If Ronald Darby's come back, you need somebody to start opposite of him. That is going to be somewhat legitimate. And the linebackers, our guys are good in run stopping, like your boy John Bostic. Give him his credit. He was the leading tackler, if I'm not mistaken.
Only because he had to.
But he was the leading tackler. Cole Holcomb wasn't. KPL wasn't.
It's not Cole Holcomb's thing. Cole Holcomb's thing is not necessarily racking up the tackles. It's just playing solid, being consistent. I mean, it's facts. It's facts.
You're better than that.
He's much better. Okay, let me say this. Bostic, Holcomb is not great in coverage, right? But I think he's still better in coverage than John Bostic. And like as the guy at the center of the defense.
Yeah, I know. No, I agree. I agree with you on that. I agree with you. You ain't wrong on that one. Bostic runs away from coverage.
Yeah.
I mean that Chris Cooley made that apparently and abundantly clear in his review. He's like, oh, look at Bostic running over to the side. And I mean, I've seen it before. I think that, but you can't deny what that dude has done. He played in all 16 games, 118 tackles, 3 sacks. And you're so wrong. And every time we needed a big play, think about this. Some of the biggest plays this year and the biggest wins, who's delivered those plays for us?
In the biggest wins?
One of the best. What was it? He had that sack on what was it? 4th down in week 1 against Carson Wentz, where he just came and blew up. Week one, week 1 on Carson, right? He made Andy Duke. Ooh, gosh, he made Andy Dalton poop himself.
Andy Duke. Yeah.
Yes, he made him poop himself, and we won that game.
Mm-hmm.
He's had didn't he have like when did he have that interception? Wasn't he key on that stop in Pittsburgh? That 4th and goal stop that we had.
He's a good backup on that.
But I'm just saying though, the brother has been everywhere. Bostic had the interception in Pittsburgh too.
Rare. I'll just mess with you on that one.
When you need it, he is like a payday loan, dude. He's like a payday loan. That's exactly what he's cash advance. When you need cash now, he's JG Wentworth. 877 Bostic now. Call JB Bostic. INT now. Bruh, I'm telling you.
I don't even know what to say after that. All I'll say is that our defense will take another step. Will be a truly, truly elite defense that can contain the elite offenses in this league once John Bostic gets moved to a backup position and we shore up that linebacker spot, all 3 of those spots.
You're so disrespectful to them, man.
It's not disrespectful.
It is disrespectful.
John Bostic is meh. Like, okay, sure, he will come up big sometimes. Okay, fine. Right? Like, his highlight video might be pretty good, right? He might make some big plays. He has made some big plays throughout the season, had a couple nice, interceptions. Mm-hmm. Fine. His highlight reel might be nice. But when you're watching him consistently for a full 60 minutes of play, you cannot tell me he is a starting linebacker on an elite defense in this league.
That's what I said. I don't need a cash advance every day. I just needed one day. I needed maybe one day out of the year. Mm-hmm. He gave it to you like 6-7 times this year. Mm-hmm. When you needed a play, when you needed somebody to deliver and be in the right place, sometimes Bostic is good, but he will not be starting. He's good. Yeah, I'm saying he's good. I'm not saying he's trash. You basically alluded.
He's gotten better. I'm not saying he's trash. I'm just saying he's not a starting linebacker on a elite defense. I've gotten to that point, just like the Logan Thomas point, right? Before, I was like, Logan Thomas is not a tight end one in this league. And then after I saw much more improvement from him, after I saw him actually being integrated into the offense and catching the ball, making legit juke moves and doing a lot of good things on the field, I changed my mind. We can change our mind,
I keep on changing mine. That's what it is. I told you, watch these guys. Watch them.
Yeah. So okay. Before getting into the draft, I know I did cut you off a little bit before you dived into that.
Good, bro.
I want to get into like what I think are the biggest needs on our team, and then we can both talk about the draft and what we want. Biggest needs. Let me look in the chat because I think Big Simple. Those are the biggest needs right there. Not necessarily in the right order, but quarterback is number 1. Same boat as you. I think we have to shore up the position. We have the pieces on defense. We have some of the pieces on offense. Sure, we can build. We can add a couple more pieces, but if we get the right quarterback, we can get to that 10-win season that, you talked about a little bit earlier that we should have next year. Middle linebacker, like you said, we need that quarterback of the defense. Sean Bostic is not it as a starting linebacker in this defense. I think, we'll talk about this a little bit later. There's a particular linebacker in the draft that I think the coaches and the Washington football team really want to get. I just don't think he'll fall to them, but maybe we can go after a guy like Dylan Moses, I believe. I think Moses coming out, right, of the
Dylan Moses.
Yeah. Or someone like him in the draft, a young, talented player that we could draft and, would be pretty cheap and we could shore up the position that way. Or we could go after some guys, in the offseason. Although I think our cap money would be better spent, if not at quarterback, then a wide receiver. There's so many legit options in free agency. Everybody talks about the Allen Robinsons of the world, the Kenny Galladay, even though he's been injury prone in the past. I think the dream pick, much like your dream pick of Deshaun Watson, I think the dream pick at the wide receiver position would be going after a guy like Allen Robinson. I mean, we talked about Mitchell Trubisky a little bit earlier and and how much I despise him. But Allen Robinson has been able to produce over the last couple of years, no matter the quarterback, whether it be Trubisky or Libisky or Foles. And I think he definitely gives some Terry vibes, right? He's not super fast or anything, but definitely is a very good possession receiver. And maybe you could add a speed guy in the draft, maybe like a Jalen Waddle. I mean, that might be a lot of acquisitions at one position. I get that, but I mean, you need the weapons on offense to really help out whoever starts at quarterback. Left tackle is also a position that I think we can shore up. I would so like for Cornelius Lucas to take on the Ty Nsekhe role and be that swing tackle for us. And then we go after like a legit left tackle in the draft, maybe a young guy, right, that might be raw, but we develop him. I know Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech, once again, is someone that a lot of mock drafters, a lot of people, a lot of experts have mock drafted to us. So maybe we can go after a left tackle, maybe the guy from Alabama, Roll Tide. Leatherwood could be a legit option there. But, I mean, there's a lot of options. I just think those needs right there that Big Simple put up on the board are the ones that we need to shore up. Free safety is another one, although I think, maybe if you go with Cam Curl and Landon Collins, we could be pretty good at the safety position, although it would be a weird fit with Curl at the free safety position. But I think we can find a guy free safety. I think there's always a bunch of guys every single offseason, even like early in the season, who we could pick up and short the position. So for very cheap as well. So I don't think that's as big of a need as middle linebacker, quarterback, left tackle.
Yeah, Curl can play because remember he played corner at Arkansas, so he can play free if he needed to. I think if they needed him to play free, he could. But
I just think he was worse in like the nickel position, which I feel like would have more traits comparable to a free safety than like when he was at the starting strong safety position, because he just commanded the box, right, and made a lot of good plays in the run game and wasn't excellent in coverage, but was actually pretty good. Even PFF rated him pretty high. So, yeah. But I mean, I did mention, some of the guys that I want to get in the draft, right? Like a Christian Darrisaw, Alex Leatherwood. Micah Parsons was the guy that I was hinting at earlier, who would be an absolutely great fit, but probably won't get past, the top 10 picks. Jalen Waddle is another guy, speed guy, who shouldn't have been playing on Monday night, but that's another story for another day. Someone who we could pick up and would be a very good fit alongside Terry. Who else? Quarterback. If we do go quarterback, maybe Mac Jones, although that would be pretty high for him. Might be a good fit there. Trey Lance might end up being, the 19th pick, or he might just have to trade up a couple spots to get him. But those are the guys that I'm looking for in the draft. I see Outlaw King. I mentioned Corey Davis from the Titans as a free agency pickup. That's someone who I was trying to hint at earlier that might not be a legit wide receiver one and might not command $20 million a year like Allen Robinson, but could be a great fit. He's very much a possession receiver, also a super, super underrated blocker. He's arguably one of the best blocking receivers in the entire league and would be a great fit here. But I do want to shift to the draft. What guys do you think we should look at and actually draft?
I think Trey Lance could be that guy. Could be a guy there. Then
Rico's boy.
Yeah. Rico's boy. My only concern is homeboy hasn't played all season. So, I mean, theoretically, he could come back. He has the ability where I think he should go back to school, but either which way. They talked about that linebacker. A couple of dudes that came in my chat, and they talked about Zaven Collins from Tulsa. And he could be that linebacker, and that's somebody you could probably get on day 2. I like who else we got here I'm actually on Pro Football Focus looking at some of these guys, and I don't want to run up the wrong guy and be like, oh Lord, this guy's terrible. But I think, you talk about Waddle, which right now Waddle is ranked over Devontae Smith. Don't ask me how that happened, but I like Chris Olave from what I've seen out of Ohio State this past year.
Where's the second round pick?
Yeah. And maybe even the third round, you do get 2 threes this year. And maybe on the outside chance, if you want that weapon and you want to
Tony with the jokes.
If you really want to get weaponize this offense, go down to Florida, trade up a little bit, maybe into the top 15, and maybe Kyle Pitts might be there. That could be a guy that could change your offense, and that means you pass up on the quarterback, or I just don't know about Mac Jones. It's the Alabama stick. It's the same thing I have with Justin Fields. It's the stigma of the history that program has with quarterbacks. And right now there's like this controversy. There's been a controversy brewing around Tua, and that people felt like he was an inferior quarterback to Fitzmagic. And so do we really want old Mac Jones? And then they showed a picture of Mac Jones where he looked like this out of shape blob. Like, the picture I'm talking about. He was smoking the stogie and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, this is 1985. Yeah, that'd be my quarterback. But my quarterback's got to be in shape, bro. He can't just be. He can't be looking like one of my boys that we can ready to go play fantasy football with.
Yeah. I think I'm in the same boat as you when it comes to drafting guys from quarterbacks from Ohio State and Alabama. It just hasn't worked, man. And it really hasn't. I will say this, though. If Justin Fields doesn't work in the NFL, then you just can never, ever trust Ohio State quarterbacks. I think he is different than a lot of guys, and he does have that mobility and that arm strength and that arm talent. But, yeah, if he doesn't work out, then it's just a lost cause at that point. Also, I don't know if you mentioned earlier, but the linebacker from Notre Dame, Outlaw mentioned that. Dylan Moses is actually 22, so he should probably declare for the draft and might be a good pick at 19, if not a little bit later in the second round. But, yeah, those are all really good guys that we could look after in the draft. There's a lot more months left, a lot more time in the process, right? You still have the scouting combine and all that, set things in order. But were you going to say something?
No, I know who you're talking about from Notre Dame, the Owosu Kamaru. Yeah. I've heard good things about him.
Yeah, I do. So we did talk about the draft, talk about offseason needs for the Washington football team. We talked about the GM search. We talked about Taylor Heineke's situation, quarterback position. We even talked about the Harden and the Nets. But I do want to talk about what we got on this weekend in the NFL, and that is some very good divisional round matchups. And I know we did this on your channel last week, but for the divisional weekend matchups, I was wondering, who do you got? Who do you got in the 4 matchups? We got Bills versus Ravens. We got Browns versus Chiefs. We got Packers versus Rams and Bucks versus Saints. I guess we can first start off with the other DMV team, the Ravens, playing against the Bills.
I think it all depends on the weather up there in Buffalo.
Sure.
I think Buffalo's a fun team to watch. And I think that Baltimore, I don't know what Baltimore we're going to get. I don't know with Baltimore. You can get a really good Baltimore, and then you can get to Baltimore to turn the ball over 3 times against the Steelers. You can get the first half of Monday Night Football against the Browns, or you can get the second half after Lamar cleansed himself. So I'll say this: the Bills are fun. I've been to Buffalo, I've been to Baltimore too, but they deserve that. City needs a winner. And I think the Bills bring that. Stephon Diggs, the local kid from Maryland,
balling out.
Yeah, he's balling out. Zach Moss, who is Sonoris and Santana's cousin. I'd say, and I like their defense too. Leslie Frazier's their defense coordinator, and he's always been a good dude in the NFL. So I said, give me the Bills in that game.
Okay. I mentioned this, I think it was on your channel last week, but outside of the DMV teams, the Bills are actually the team that I've been most rooting for the last couple of years, just largely because I am a big Josh Allen fan. I thought he was actually, this might surprise a lot of people, but I thought he would actually be maybe not an MVP candidate, but have a really, really good season this year coming into the offseason. And I mean, I also said the same thing about Lamar Jackson 2 years ago. So, I mean, hit on a couple guys. But I do think, though, even without the weather, right, if the weather was just, it's all sunny and you didn't have to worry about the temperature or anything, I think I would have rolled with the Bills anyways. And now, especially with the weather, I think the Bills just have too much firepower right now. Josh Allen is balling out of his mind. Stephon Diggs as well. I mean, he's the leading receiver in the entire NFL this year, 1,500 plus yards, and has just had a very good connection with Josh Allen. You also have a guy like Zach Moss, Devin Singletary in the backfield, and their defense, while it isn't as elite as it was the last couple of years, it's still very, very good. It's still top half at worst, and have a Tre'Davious White right there, back there, and he's been one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL. I just think the Bills, they're going to win. I think they're going to win this game, and Lamar Jackson shouldn't be too bad. I think he'll perform, but I just think the Bills have too much firepower. But having said that, moving on to the next matchup, we all saw the absolute the game on Sunday between the Browns and the Steelers, and how the Browns just absolutely demolished the Steelers. The final score didn't really show that, but I mean, the Browns had the game from early on, and also saw Chase Claypool, I believe it was a couple of days after the game, talk about how the Browns are going to get clapped this week against the Chiefs. And I was wondering, do you think that's going to be the case, or do you think maybe the Browns pull up upset?
See, I thought Juju would have just danced on their logo, because every time he danced on a logo, that team wins, but obviously not. I think Chase Claypool needs to sit down and shut up, because yet again, he plays on a team that it comes in like a lion and goes out like a kitten. He did it at Notre Dame. He did it with Pittsburgh this year. Sit down, have a Coke, and shut up. So surprisingly, I think that Cleveland is built better to win this game, because the best defense you can have is a running game. Keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, and let's not think that the Chiefs are this godlike team that has ran through the playoffs. They struggled with all 3 of their opponents last year in the playoffs. They were down 24-0 against Houston. They struggled for a little bit back and forth with Tennessee in the championship game. And then we know that they had to make a double-digit comeback to come and win against San Francisco. And Kyle Shanahan helped them out. And then the year before that, same thing, pretty much. They kind of struggled a little bit with Andrew Luck and them in Indianapolis, and then they lost to New England. So I think Cleveland is built to win. It can win this game. Now, saying all that, and they did it without their head coach, right? I can't go against my homeboy, because he's just going to do my homeboy like stuff. And I think they win this game. I don't think it's going to be the walk in the park that they think it's going to be, or a lot of people are prognosticating it's going to be. I think this game is going to be relatively close, and I can see this being maybe a 10-point ball game at the worst. So I say give me the Chefs there.
Okay. Yeah. I should have. Let me just say this on your channel last week. I should have stuck with my guns and just outright picked the Browns, because I mentioned like how that game was that pick was the hardest for me to make, because I really thought the Browns. A lot of people were sleeping on them because of the whole COVID situation, and they had all the weapons. I did not trust the Steelers' offense whatsoever. Should have trusted my guts, but this week. It's tough, man. I know you mentioned the Titans, the 49ers as teams that the Chiefs have struggled against in the in the playoffs. But
the
usually
Falcons, they struggled against the Falcons at home.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Like 3 weeks ago, and Mahomes didn't play, so he's really has not played in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I just. Again, referencing the stream that we had last week, I just think Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is a completely different animal. I mean, we saw that last year, right? He was injury prone. He was injured in the regular season and wasn't actually super hot even when he played in the regular season. But in the playoffs, he turned it on. And
that was that Madden curse, Nati.
Huh?
That was that Madden curse, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think he's I don't think he has to like produce in the regular season in order, to be really good in the playoffs, and sort of is very much like LeBron like in that aspect. But I think the Chiefs, again, they just have too much firepower. And the Browns, if the Browns had a legit top 10 defense, sure. I think the Browns could actually have a very, very good chance of winning this game. I still think they're going to hold it close like you do, but I think the Chiefs will ultimately pull out the W this week. And moving on, what about the Packers versus the Rams?
Green Bay.
Okay. Yeah.
Green Bay runs away with it.
Yeah. Runs away. Even with the Rams defense as is.
Green Bay runs away with it.
Runs away?
Green Bay.
Wow. I don't think the Packers run away with it. I would say the Packers will win this game. Got Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position. I mean, he's the best football player in the NFL right now. His arm has not dropped off one bit, even with him, being 36 years old.
He's a bad man.
Yeah, I do. And even with the Devontae Adams versus Jalen Ramsey matchup, I think Ramsey will hold his own, but I think Adams is just too good. He's had too good of a season. I think he'll produce this week. Also, I do want to mention, though, that Packers versus Chiefs was my Super Bowl matchup, so I'm sticking with it and going with the Packers in this one. And then last but not least, the team that we lost against very closely last weekend, the Bucs versus the Saints. Who you got?
I'm going with Tom Brady.
Okay.
I think they get him the third time. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. And I think for the longest time, we've been trying to get Brady and Rodgers in the Super Bowl, and that's what we've wanted. Guess what? That ain't going to happen. So it's going to be the NFC Championship game in Green Bay, Lambeau, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers going for a chance to go to Tampa for right in the Super Bowl. So I think that's what it's going to be. Drew Brees has been very liability-ish to me. Like he looked very his age, as of late, and I don't think you're going to win games when he can't throw touchdown passes, and it's just like the velocity is not there like it used to be. Then they got other weapons that are there that are good, like in Kamara on offense. And that defense is still pretty good. Dennis Allen does have a squad that can go out there and stop people. But I think at the end of the day, they finally Tampa gets the last laugh.
Yeah, this is by far, for me, this is by far the hardest game to pick. I will say I believe Devin White is actually coming back this week.
He got activated yesterday.
Yeah, and we saw on Saturday night the Bucks rush defense is absolutely no joke. They are the best in the league for a reason. They can stop anyone and everyone on the ground, and the Saints are probably gonna have to rely on Alvin Kamara to win this game. I know Michael Thomas is back, but Drew Brees isn't the same, and I think that's probably going to be the deciding factor for me. I think the Bucks, more so than actually Tom Brady, I think the Bucks will pull off the W. I don't think Tom Brady will have a spectacular game. I think the Bucks defense will just hold the Saints and will not give up too many points. And ultimately, Brady might throw a last-second touchdown, or one of the Bucks running backs that they have right now will score a last-second touchdown. But so, yeah, I mean, it should be a fun slate of matchups that we have this weekend. We don't have 6 matchups this time. We have 4, but
thank God.
Yeah. I mean, you were grinding like on the weekend.
Oh, God, dude.
Oh, my gosh. 3 straight days.
I still don't have my voice fully back from this past weekend. I think it was like all together. I think at the end of it, 410. 21 hours in 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, man. It was an undertaking, but I'm glad it's over with. And now I can do staggered releases.
Yeah.
I'll probably be live Sunday, but we've got basketball at work, so I'm gonna go watch that and instead and enjoy a Saturday. So,
that's good. I mean, you deserve it. The content was awesome. Content was awesome on all those days that you were on. And I mean, with that being said, I see some comments in the chat. Yes, Tony, the Notre Dame linebacker, is a monster from what I've heard. Tom Brady is the GOAT. Yeah, I just think he might not have the most spectacular games this week, but he's Brady, and he'll find a way to win. Roger Smith, our defense got shredded. Yeah, I kind of believe in that. I don't believe in the notion that our defense is like absolutely set right now. I know not everyone believes that, but a good part of this fan base does. I think we mentioned it. Add a linebacker position, maybe add a free safety, add an outside cornerback, and then we can truly build a defense that will be elite against some of the best offenses in the league. Because we've seen this year when we play against very elite offenses, I mean, we're not atrocious, but we are susceptible to giving up a lot of points. We gave up 31 points to the Bucks. And even before that, it doesn't have to be the best of teams. If you just have a very good offense, yeah,
I get it. I do. I honestly get this. But my thing is you cannot put it off for another year. You can't. You got to go. Because the worst thing you did was you won the division. That's the worst thing you did. You won the division at 7-9. Now you have to play.
Oh, I think Corey is off the stream, but okay, he's back.
My bad. My slip. I'm not going to waste a good year that I have with Deron Payne, where I don't have to pay him an exuberant amount of money, or Tim Settle. I'm going to go and add people through the draft and everything like that. They have sent the message that Ron said, we are learning how to win. You don't set back when you're learning to win. You are going to add pieces to the puzzle. Now, granted, every great team has flaws. That's just inherent. They're going to have it. If we're giving up, if we're giving up 300 yards a game, but we're winning, is it really that big of a problem?
I think what Roger Smith is also trying to say is that this is, we're trying to take the next step as a team. We don't just want to make the playoffs anymore. We want to be like legit contenders for years to come. So, I mean, I kind of agree. I understand what you're saying, but I do think that we can do both, right? We can do both. It's not an either or. We can add to the linebacker position and get a quarterback.
It's not a red line. It's not a red line. I think you can do this, and you can go out and get your quarterback.
Yeah.
To me, I like, and I've said this before. I don't think I would I like to get Trey Lance. I would love to get Trey Lance or any of these quarterbacks in this draft. But what's the price of it? What are we doing? We're telling this defense that we cultivated that we can add to and make better. Yeah. You guys, we're not gonna focus on making you all better. We're just gonna focus on, fine tuning. You can't fine tune. Like, you can't do that now. You won the division. You got to go out there and get it. Now, if you're 9-7, you get in the wild card or something like that, you're there.
Yeah.
The next step, you won the division. The next step to me is to win a playoff game. That's what that is. So what can you do to get to what do we have to do to get to the next step? Identify that and go down the line and be like, okay, playoffs, check. We did that. Win playoff game. That's going to be the next check. How do we do that? That's my thing. And I don't any of those washed up quarter. Yeah, like, I'm not giving up like to a Tyrod Taylor. I'm not gonna give money to Tyrod Taylor. I'm not gonna give money to like a lot of these dudes. It's only two dudes I would give money to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Deshaun Watson, but you might have to give a farm up for him. That's why I said he is my super dream. That's exactly what it is. He is my heavenly choice. If he can't get it, if Dak is out there, Russell Wilson's making 35, right? Russell's making 35 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, you can't tell me you can't get this guy at 33 or 34, and that's going right for.
You can ask for more though, Corey.
Good. But and then if that's the case, I have my price. He has his price. That's all it is. It's negotiating.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it should be interesting to see how things play out on this offseason.
Right.
Both of us will be here throughout the offseason making content. Make sure you go subscribe to Corey's channel on the Warpath. If I haven't already, I will make sure to include a link to your channel in the description. No problem.
Hey, I got a question for you though. This is I've been thinking, and I asked this on my channel the other day. I don't know if I asked you this. So Heineke's performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that performance? Does he do that same performance in front of a crowd of people?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
See, that's where I have a. I get he's a competitor and everything like that.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, go
ahead. Got a performance at home or away? I think that's it.
Home.
Yeah.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. They would quiet down when they're on offense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I don't know. I really don't know if that moment gets to him. Like, I mean, what was his biggest bowl game in college? The Bahama Bowl.
Yeah.
So, like, and he played at emerging football school. At ODU had just had the program back, like, 3 years when he first started. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's where my concern is. I'm not discrediting what he's done. I'm just like, okay, everything that glitters isn't gold. And they always say, beware of brief delight and lasting shame.
Powerful words from Corey to end the stream.
There you go.
I mean, I just think he's different as those in my. As young people like to say, he's different, right? Like, he just has something about him. He has a moxie where he could, we saw on Saturday night, right?
Darius Guice had a moxie about him.
Oh no, he just he brought up okay. I don't know. It's just something about Taylor Heineke that gives me confidence that he would perform if the Saturday night game was in front of home fans, I think he would have performed either way. I do say home fans though, because if it was away fans, that would be a whole nother issue, because they would get really loud when Washington was on offense, and maybe, as a young quarterback who hasn't had too much time in the system, even with some experience, that might hurt, to sort of get the reads off and get.
And he did this against bottom 20, like 20th and 26th ranked passing defenses.
Yeah.
I'm just.
But also, he did this against the defense that was the best against the run, so he had to be one-dimensional to move the ball down the field, and he still thrived doing it.
Fair.
You can look at it that way as well. But again, want to shout out all the people in the chat. Roger Smith, Big Simple. He is typing. I see. Hey, Nati, what's up? But yeah, I think we're just gonna end it that way. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I want you to enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening, and same for everyone in the chat. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to DMV Sports Zone channel, where we try to post fire content on here as much as possible. And we have some interesting content to come, a very interesting interview to come, hopefully next week. Still trying to figure things out with the individual, but let's just say it is a very, very beloved. I don't know if beloved is the right word, but a lot of people admire his work for the team as a reporter for the team. I'll just leave it at that. But with that being said, with that we can talk about it off camera recording. But with that being said, thank you guys again so much for watching, and have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. Peace.
See you guys. He left me on here. So guys, make sure you go and subscribe to Nati.